flipped a coin, okay? You and me. You and me. Coin flip is sacred.
Y'all ready for a show today, baby? Go time, baby. We've been waiting all week for this. This is where it happens right here, man. We man up, we stand up. We man up, we stand up. We all we got. We all we need. We all we got. We all we need. We all we got. We all we need.
Hit anything that moves. We're playmakers, man. We the best, nothing less.
You don't like this? Trust me, you don't like it.
We're between the white lines. This is football. Welcome to the big league. I won the toss. I took the football. Drive it down that throat.
Are you out of your mind? Are you out of your skull?
Hey, every season is full of defining moments. Let's make this day a defining moment for us in our quest.
Game time! Game time!
Welcome, everybody, to episode 22, our fourth episode of season 2 of the CoinFlip NFL Week 4. As usual, we're going to be focusing mainly on NFL DFS. We're going to throw in some betting contest spots that we like, but the majority of the reason you're here is to get our action-packed info on the DFS slate. The main slates are our main content we will talk about. But first, before we get into that, let's recap last week and talk to my partner in crime at Toe Tag and Tambo on Twitter. Tambo, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. It's going to be a good week, man. I feel it. This is the one here. Fourth time is the charm, week 4. But good. Just talk some golf. Went through that, get it dialed in, and now we get into the football, man. Lots of big tournaments this weekend.
Yeah, it's feels like Monday till about Thursday afternoon is a blur with golf and football going on, and it kind of gets marinated in and figure everything out. Once the tee times go off, you kind of put that to the back and start focusing on building out some golf or football lineups. Typically do a bullet or so and showdown, just have a little action. How was week 3 for you? It doesn't sound like it was too tremendous if this is week 4 is a charm, but how was it overall?
Yeah, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great because, mainly came down to a decision in cash. Everyone's blaming the same thing, so I'll hop on board with it. But with the Rashad Penny news and Carson at home, didn't expect the Saints to do what they did and made a decision to get off of McCaffrey and Gore to go to Eckler and Carson, who I thought on paper that looked like a better play. I wanted McCaffrey, but Gore is more of a FanDuel play in my mind where it's more TD dependent. So I felt like on paper it was a better decision. It didn't turn out. It cost me probably about 35 points. And in some of the main lineups and the spots that I got, like that was a lot of money. So it could have been a lot better, but we'll go into this week and there's some big tournaments this week. So I'm excited to see if I can flip that luck around and make it happen this time.
Yeah, I think a lot that we talked about last week is going to be brought up tonight. I have some passionate takes that I'm not really going to back down from, so we'll see how those go. But it was back and forth week. I had some great, again, third week in a row, and we preach it from the beginning that NFL is not like, the hard part about NFL is you got to be patient with it. You as long as you're there and you have chances, and you may have made 1 or 2 decisions wrong, it's very hard to predict. Unlike some people that think they can look at stats all day and they know exactly what's going to happen in a football game. And I honestly, they have no fucking clue. They have no more of an opinion on what's going to happen in that game than anybody else. They may be well educated and prepped on the game and have a good mathematical stance that makes sense, which I'm not bashing by any means. I'm analytical. But I went back and looked at 50 players that I felt in play between all positions, and 48% of them were complete misses by the industry standards. The Galladays, the Chris Carsons, the good and bad. So some guys that thought people were going to do bad and they did good. These guys should do that. They're getting this much target share as they run. You don't know. Football is not like any other sport. Most of these guys haven't put, and I don't care if you haven't put shoulder pads on, but the scheming and game planning that goes week to week, especially at the highest level in the world, the NFL, is completely different than what you think an air yard or a split share or a carry or a route run or a yards per carry or a yards per attempt or a yards per run route or whatever hell else fucking stat you want to come up with will tell you. And while some of that is great leverage, I think it is. Now the analytical side, I'm going to say there is some good information to go look at that may put you on something or the other, but don't come up Sunday night and make the excuses that, well, this, and this. No, you don't know why it didn't happen. It just didn't happen, right? It just, Galladay didn't get in the game action. Didn't, Monday night easily could have been Anthony Miller that had a great night, but, Gabriel goes off. It's just a scheming. They find a weakness in the D. They keep attacking it. There's different schemes that offensive gurus will set up to exploit that weakness. And most guys don't realize that. They don't know how to look at tape and understand that. It is an advantage I have to an extent, but even I don't have as much time as anybody in the world could have to analyze it all. So kind of the theme of the night for me is not to get too cute with NFL. It's trust your gut, trust your instincts. It's a sport that you don't have to get cute. You just have to get off one or two spots, be a little bit different, especially depending on the contest you're getting in, and be careful who you listen to. Because I will tell you the advantage of Gup's Corner and the guys that we have here and surrounded around, we care about the results of our subs. And I think we proved that. A lot of guys out there care about the results for them, and they charge for them. They put 3, 8, 10, 20,000 in a week, and they forget that the mindset of most of the subs that are paying them don't have that bankroll. And so you can talk about 18 different guys because you're going to combo it up and have every single showdown combination or have every single main slate this combination because you're going to max everything out. Your average consumer, no offense to those subs, they don't have that bankroll. The average human doesn't, right? Most people play $200 a week. And I think a lot of people in the industry forget that. And I think it's a weakness, which is why I developed / created this idea 4.5 years ago, which came to life 2.5 years ago, which now I think has grown tremendously and done a good job. And everybody in the Slack that sees it is because they know our passion and our true feelings. And NFL is one of my strong points. Football is in altogether because I did play it at next to the highest level, but equally it's kind of a unique situation for me because I am a super, super analytical. So I can kind of see both sides of it. And that you just have to have balance. Like I'm not bashing the stat nerds, if you want to call them that, because I do stats. I do it all the time. Even for my real career, I'm analytical, but you have to have a combo balance with football. It's not, and the reason I say that, so in golf, forget the cut. Your guy's going to hit 18 holes on Thursday. He's going to have 18 holes on Friday, just like everybody else. In football, they may not. I mean, they may get down 21-0 on 2 turnovers, and all of a sudden that running game you thought they were going to have all game just got blown out of the water, aka or i.e. the Seahawks.
Yeah.
They got down early, and the smash it with Carson all day went out the water. Plus, I think he fumbled again earlier, but he's
fumble in 3 games. Yeah.
Yeah, and so everything you bank on just went to a shit show because you're down early and you got to throw, and now all of a sudden Russell Wilson has a huge game. Was there any analytics that's going to tell you that? Fuck no, there's not. So you can be contrarian on that, or you can do vice versa. But and you and I are a good blend because we combo all that, and we have mass builds. We build 1 to 3 lineups. We play a lot, and I started out playing a little. I think you did as well. So it's not all gravy. And I think I really want to hone in on everybody to say, at the end of the day, especially football, and the biggest deal, and then I'll move on, is one of the hardest things with football is because there's 6.5 days in between salaries, analysis, pods, articles, tweets, pods, injury news, for 6.5 days. Whereas golf, it's right at 48 hours at best before you're locking lineups Wednesday night. So you don't have as much of that rethink, overthink, rethink as you do in football. Because by the time you get to Sunday morning, you've heard 18 different versions of what could happen Sunday. So you really have to, push that noise out and try to focus on what you really believe in and what you take all those points in. And there are some great stats. I use a lot of stats, but there's also something to be said for, I watch every single game just about every week. I watch it either on DirecTV on the Sunday Ticket, or I'll rewatch it in a 30-minute deal during my lunches and stuff. So I watch a lot of tape. So I have a little bit different take than some may. And I'm sure there's guys out there that watch a lot of tape because they do this for a career. This isn't my career. I have a real career. I love this job. I love Gup's Corner, but I don't have that much time to put into it. But I think there's a good balance there you can find. And if you relax and just kind of play your plays, I think good things will happen more than not. And that's kind of my opinion. Last week for me, it was just I lost a little bit. I lost like 30% on the main slate. Finished strong. Had a great Sunday Night Football. Got blanked on Monday Night Football. Just didn't. I went with one type of build and it didn't work out. I did have the Bears D and I had Trubisky. I wish I would have done a couple things different. But is what it is. You know, in a bullet type build like that, especially showdown, it's just you got to get lucky to an extent. Unless you're putting 150 lineups in or something like that. But in a single build, you know, you got to take your risk. We did have a sub, Bob, great guy, hit 50,000 on a single bullet in a $180 entry Monday night. So congrats to him. That was awesome. He's going to do some charity work with that as well. He's already reached out to us. He's got some cool news he's going to do with some of that money. So we love that. That's all part of Gup's Corner. That's what we love to hear. Betting-wise for me, I started 3-0 Sunday morning and then went 1-4. Did hit the 2-star Jets, but I had the Browns +3, Browns +4.5 to offset it. All in all, I lost just under a 1-star, 1 unit for the week. First losing week of the year in NFL, but we're going to bounce back, get that back this week. Really fired up about the card, and I really fired up about DFS. I have some great takes. I think by the time we get done with this, we'll have a good player pool put together. First, let me knock out sponsors and affiliates. As always, our 2019 sponsor, Super Draft. I think a lot of you guys in Slack have picked up on D-Rock's doing some content work for us. I'm going to look at one of the deals he's got going, hopefully get posted. I know he's got a model that you can go look at as well on like a Google Drive type format. Last week, I think it may have got 70% full. I didn't see the final numbers. You deposit $10 with the code GUP, and you get $10 bonus when you put it in play. So basically, put $20 in play and then it's yours. The big overlay is in the $20, so it works out perfectly. Put $10 in there, you get your $10, put a $20 entry in. I don't know if I'd do a bullet only, but even if you want to do that, there's so much overlay, and the max entries is only like 7,000 total instead of 280,000 like on DraftKings. And it's a little bit different theory, different point system. It's a multiplier system. You can play your best 6 guys. You just gotta. There's no salary or anything. It's just more of, you know, this guy's worth 1.5 points, 1.5x all his points, and this guy's worth 3.8x. So it's kind of like sleepers versus chalk type of deal. It's so new of a deal that I think we could have some leverage, especially in this community. So I'd try it out. I think a lot of the guys are playing it. A lot have signed up already. Again, use the code GUP there. We are going to have a special offer that I'll put out either tonight or tomorrow. When you sign up, we'll have a special offer that coincides with Gup's Corner. I'll finalize that tonight and get that posted as well. Fanshare Sports, as always, you can use the code GUP, get the pro advantage. All these affiliates are on our website, gupscorner.com/affiliates. You can get the links directly and go straight to them. 20% off. One of the better ownership analysis for NFL. I put out mine, very simplistic view of ownership. They go deep diving. There is a ton more content in NFL, so they can get real deep. It's not like golf where you can kind of pick up most of the content yourself. So it's an advantage if you like looking at tags and buzz and all those reports. Go check them out, fansharesports.com, and you can use the code GUP there. PFF.com, one of the most analytical sites there is out there as far as deep diving numbers, all the stuff we talked about earlier. I'm a member there. I paid for it myself the last few years. You can get the Elite or Edge Advantage, 20% off with the code GUP. It's kind of like, I mean, if you're like a guru, like you just love NFL information, it could be college draft information, player grades on O-line, wide receiver, cornerback information. They go deep, 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 deep in. I think we have a lot of good feedback on our tools. Their tools are like real in depth, a little more costly, but worth it if you like that kind of stuff. Most guys just want summary report. Let me look at it and I'm going to move on. We have that for you if you need it. These guys go well in depth. If you want to read and get in depth and kind of look for that deep edge, great site to get to join. And then our site, of course, gupscorner.com. Use the code GCGFF. Get 15% off any package, tools, or content analysis. If you join the content analysis package right now, you receive free access to our golf demo that we have going on right now that is going to go on for the entire fall swing. And then we'll go live with our golf package for the Tournament of Champions. So now's a good time to get free access to that, plus the content analysis package. And then if you want to add football tools on, you can use that same code for 15% off. A little hint, if you want to go listen to my 20-minute pod from Sunday night, it has a better offer in it that won't be publicized anywhere. It's only on the pod. Go check it out before you buy. Rate and review us always on iTunes, Instagram, Facebook. Subscribe to us on YouTube, Twitch. We will be giving away some great giveaways starting in the next couple of weeks. Next Monday night, I'll announce a couple of cool things we have coming up, and giveaways will be involved in that as well. Make sure you sign up on the Listener League. I reduced it to 150 this week because we've been having a little trouble filling the 200. Let's fill that up early and let's bump it back to 200 starting next week. I kind of went on a rant there, but I kind of had it planned. So I'm going to move quick on to this week. Any key strategy changes? We can get into injuries with our playbook plays, but anything content strategy wise you're changing this week or that you didn't like last week, or is it just kind of move on same as always for you, Tambo?
Pretty much same as always. I think what you hit on was pretty much nobody knows shit, not to put it a bad way, but it's true. And you got to go with your conviction. And like you said, that's what we do here. I was wrong, so to speak, on Dallas last week, but I think that was an absolute floor game for Zeke. The guy still had like 150, 125 yards. He had like 19 DK points in the worst game ever with no TDs. Cooper took them all. You could have leveraged off that, but I went with my conviction. I got money in play on it. So I'm hurting if you're hurting. I'm winning if you're winning. The stacks that I had were good. So like you said, trust your gut, play what you want to play. But if you've got strong conviction, roll it, because you got to, the Warren Buffett quote, be greedy when others are fearful, be fearful when others are greedy. You got to make your stand. And that's a spot that I did it at. So simply put, stick to that and going with the same strategy this week for sure.
No, I think that's, I didn't mention that in my little, like if you do go away and the game doesn't go that way, then that's fine. But don't come on your pod or don't be posted about how this coordinator fucked up the game plan and no, he didn't. They had these dudes are at the top of the level. Shut your ass up. You don't know a fucking thing about football. So to come out and make excuses about a football team and the way they ran their organization that week is the reason why your strategy didn't work out. That's asinine to me. Like I made a couple stands and a couple of them were great. They worked out. A couple of them didn't. I'm like, all right, well, next week, hopefully it does. You have to make stands in football. You have to make your spots and go, all right, the odds of this happening may not be as great, but I saw something in the defense. I saw, the stats. This guy's been on the field 90% of the time. He just hadn't had, but he could this week. And you just stick by it and go, hey, I'm taking the chance this week. I hope he hits.
Yeah.
That's how.
And let me tell you another thing. I don't know who saw it. I think a lot of people did, but not to tout my own team's horn, but John Harbaugh was on talking about the decision to go for 2, talking about how the Ravens got analytics out the ass to make these decisions. They're not just making a call to go for 2 there. There's a reason for it. There's the game, the team they're up against in Kansas City. There was a reason they did that. So if you think you got the analytics and you got the answers, guess what? They're studying them a lot harder than you. So it comes down to a decision like with a running back. Guess what? If you think he's going to go off, so does the coach, the coordinator, everybody from that opposition, that they might decide to shut that running back down. It's your job to take the stand and decide, do you think that matters or not? Because if you think and know that they're going to go off, quote unquote, that they're going to go off, so does the coach and the coordinator of the other team. They're going to do everything in their damn power to try and stop that. So you got to make the decision if that still feels right to you or not, and then go from there.
No, 100%. And I think, which I don't mind people taking stances or using analytics to back up the research. I agree with it. What I saw Sunday night and into Monday were some of these guys are the biggest in the industry, quote unquote, which to me means they were in it first. And so they built up a good following. It doesn't mean they're the best or they're most smartest. And I'll stand by that, but they were using excuses on where the team's messed up and game plan wrong. And I didn't say anything because I'm not doing the Twitter deal no more on that stuff, but got all over me on these guys who are keyboard warriors, that their life is revolved around fantasy and they think they know how to call a football game better than the guys that are up there doing it, who've been in the industry, playing football, coaching football 30 plus years. You don't. I promise you don't, or you would be doing it. You'll make more money in the NFL. So go sign up to be a coordinator for the NFL if you're that good, and don't criticize. And lastly, don't blame your success or failures on what a team did or didn't do. Just stand by what you did and say, hey, here's why I did it. It didn't work out, but I believe in it, and it is what it is. Like you just did with Dallas, right? This is why I did it. I had a strategy. Didn't work out. Oh, well, it is what it is. No one's going to be perfect. I heard that one of the best guys in the country that bets, he goes earlier, 55%, RJ Bell, 55% is the goal of these guys that bet six figures a week in Vegas. Not no chump change. These guys that post this shit and they bet $20 a bet type stuff. 55%. That's the professional goal. 58% is like a great goal for the year. But you'll see everybody posting 65, 70% day in and day out. Not that I don't really even care about it, but know what the industry standard is and understand the realization of it, and not worry about the Twitter world and bubble world that some of us live in and think that's the standard, because it's not real life. And I hope that's what we bring to an extent. We never brag about being the best or we do the best, but we're the most accountable, and no one's more accountable or display what we put out there than anybody. No one does it as well as us. They could equal us for sure, but we show everything. I've shown every bet I've ever made for the last 5 years since I've been doing it. And I assure you not many do that. But I don't hide behind it, because if you have a bad week, you have a bad week. It is what it is. Football or golf or whatever. Betting's betting. Betting's hard. And that it just gets all over me when people try to be fake. And I'm tired of that world. And I've removed myself from Twitter, other than having to try to build the business through it and as an avenue, but I don't engage much on it with especially idiots. I just hit the mute button and go on. It's a lot funner that way these days, and I'm a lot less stressful doing that. Real quickly, kind of a unique game tomorrow, Thursday Night Football. I have a comment or two, but Tambo, 120 seconds or less. Packers -4.5, over under 45.5. Injuries left and right for the Eagles. Packers coming in with a strong D. What is your take on the Thursday Night Football game?
Probably chalky, but I definitely like the Packers side. I think, like you said, those injuries, we've just seen them get pounded up. So the pass game for me is really strong. I like Rodgers. I like Adams. I like MBS, Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I like Jimmy Graham. Looks like he's going to be active there. So I think he'll be sort of a under-the-radar play that he could do some damage against them. Definitely like running it back with Ertz. He's another guy who just hasn't really shown it yet. He's getting lots of targets. He's getting lots of opportunities, but hasn't quite, turned in anything. So, don't mind him at all. Jeffrey, if he's back, which it sounds like he will be as well, they said today that he's a fine play because he's a wide receiver one, right? So as much as people like Ertz, if Ertz is going to be super popular, you can always mix in Jeffrey there. But I do like the Packers side, especially like the Packers D. The interesting thing, and maybe you give your comments on it, Gup, but what do you think about the running game here for both sides? Because the Eagles got 3 running backs, and then the Packers got 2, and there really are splitting time between Williams and Jones. So what's your take on the running game here, maybe to round it out?
Especially going into the season, a lot of people thought it was pretty much Jones's show, right? There's been some dictation by the defenses the way they go. I don't know, there's kind of an overall theory of, and I don't know, probably more analysis needs to come from or just reviewing it, that I think a lot of teams are pushing to move to try to keep these workhorses healthy throughout the year. Which is, we go running back by committee and the zero running back theory when you're talking about preseason, all those kind of things come into a factor here. And I think this could be it, but I don't know if it devalues Jones. I think it's too short of a sample size. It'll be interesting to watch it. And I mean, this will be a game where, they should be able to run the ball very well. Eagles got a pretty good D up front, but I think they would want to establish a run. But it looks like it's going to be, it's going to be interesting to see the carry though over the next 2 or 3 weeks. New offensive coordinator, new head coach with a new theory as well. So this may be the style he likes to run and keeping 2 guys fresh. So when they get to week 14 and they're playing, at a Buffalo or, I'm making, wherever, he's got 2 horses ready to go when he needs to get first downs and that, these smart coaches plan for the future, and there's no reason per se, if you got 2 good running backs, to run them 25, 30 times, and then they're worn down by week 13, 14 and not very healthy. Look at Gurley last year, right? He was beat down by the time they got to the playoffs. So I agree with that. And the other deal, I do think you would expect Rodgers to attack this beaten up secondary. I think if the game stays close and Philly's competitive, it will be because Wentz got some time. The offensive line protected him, and he was able to go off. and have a pretty good game. Obviously, Alshon's back. So I think they're going to be competitive. They're at home. I really think it's going to be hard for them to win with that beat-up secondary. And I think it's just an injury thing for them on defense. I don't know how they're going to stop Rodgers and the crew.
Right. Yeah, I feel the same.
So next, we just go straight to the Sunday main slate. Obviously, the playbook for us, we go plays, fades, value, sleepers, 1 each for the quarterback and tight end, 2 each for play and fade for the running back and wide receiver. That includes the flex. 1 fade only. Sorry about that. Two for the 2 plays and 2 values. I said that wrong. And then 1 fade. D's and tight ends, we just do a play and a value each. Obviously, it's a limited field. This week I did mark, so we had some barriers. Quarterbacks for the value is 5,500 or less. Running backs 5,000 or less. Wide receiver 5,000 or less. Tight end 4,000 or less. Defense 3,000 or less. Tambo, kick us off with quarterbacks.
Yeah, the play for me, Gup, is going to be Russ Wilson. So Arizona D, we've seen what it is. Expect another back and forth game, really, in my opinion. But I think Wilson looked pretty good last week. He's been good so far. He just hasn't had that big breakout game yet. They haven't been throwing as much, but now this looks like a spot where it just sets up perfectly and his price is just right. He's not up at that, Lamar Jackson and Mahomes type price. So I'll go with Russell Wilson there. Arizona D's trash. Brady is my fade. Just don't see the upside with him. Buffalo's got a really good defense. Talk more on that later. But especially when you got Lamar Jackson and, Watson above and below. So he would be contrarian, but I don't think it's a good contrarian play because of what he's going up against and what the other guys can do above and below. So fading Brady. And then my value, I think will be popular with everybody, but they didn't even move the price really much on Daniel Jones. And the matchup we know against Washington is strong. So at his price, I think it's 5,300. He just fits within the barriers that you set up this week. And I like him, chalk or not. I still like him at that price. What about yourself?
I agree with I don't have any issues with any of that. My play is actually Stafford. I think that game. Do you think Detroit can hang in the shootout, or do you think they just get blown away and then they're playing catch up? One way or the other, I still think they're going to be throwing a lot. Right? I don't see a potential slow down pace.
I think they got to be throwing it either way. So I definitely don't hate that. Like him and Golladay, Jones, maybe even Hawkinson. There's definitely ways to set that up. So I don't hate the play at all, and he's a fair price for sure. Good matchup.
Fade for me is going to be kind of a theme of the night. It's going to be Rivers. I don't like him going West Coast to East Coast. Just because of the price. I don't know if he's going to be that high owned or not, but he's just a guy I'm not going to play. Not in this situation. My instinct would be that they try to run the ball, establish that with Jackson and Eckler. They will throw it, but with the loss they had Sunday, they just need to get a W, and which is one of the reasons why I'm on the other side, on the betting side later we get to. But I don't think they come in with the mindset to go across country and score 40 points on the Dolphins. But then my values, Brissett, I'm still on him. He fell underneath that mark. I think he's underpriced again. He's at home against Oakland. I really think that's going to could be a good game for him. I do worry a little bit about a slower pace in that game. But I don't mind playing a stack there. Brissett, Mac, Ty, if he's hurt, Kane possibly, or even I like Jack Doyle in his matchup. I know it's tough to do a tight end for the Colts, but that's the guy I like for value wise. I'll kick off the running backs. So my play, just backing right up on that, is Mac. I like Mac this week. I think the Colts O-line will control line of scrimmage. I think they'll be able to run the ball well, use the run to set up the pass, play action. Very similar script to what they had last week. So I see where that could be a combo. My next play, I don't mind going back to Carson, assuming all is well. We'll see how Penny looks. This could wind up, I could change it. I have another one I like, but everybody's probably, this is more of I think everybody's going to be off him after a lot of people had him last week and got let down. That I think Seattle's going to try to run the ball, establish it well this week. I think the game script that I see currently right now, it favors that against Arizona. They're going to be at Arizona. Obviously, this could be a stackable as well because Arizona's D is not very great as pass defense, but I think they'll struggle stopping the run as well. So I think Carson could be a very good play that would be a low-owned play. My fade is Cook, which I've been on all year. I still like him. I just don't like him at that price. And then the Bears, they have a really good D. Not only that, Minnesota's on the road. If Minnesota's at home, I wouldn't be as afraid, but 8,300, I'll have to see if he gets talked down. And a low-owned Cook, I may take a chance on. But they're also getting the other guy in there, so he's getting a little bit of back to similar on the Green Bay situation. I mean, they're rotating a little bit. I mean, Cook's the guy, but the other guy's getting some carries. It's just not a good spot for him, especially to be now he's priced way up from week 1 up to 8,300. So I think I'd fade Cook. My first value is probably everybody's, Gallman at the Giants. And actually, I'm going Gallman and Peterson in that game. I think could see potential high-scoring game. I think both teams will try to establish a run. It's an old-school NFC East battle. I could see using both those guys under 4,500 for the value plays. I think they're both under 45. They're both under 5,000 for sure, but I like both of them this week. Gallman's 4,600, so right there, cheap options that are going to get a pretty good clip of the carries for my values. What about you?
So we'll do plays first. I got CMC. I'm not fading this guy ever again, I don't think. I know he had that one bad week there, but man, even with Allen there, and I know one was a 75-yard run, but it's just too valuable, man. This guy is, a PPR king. I don't care. I'm going to go with him at a high clip. I think it's a good matchup against Houston. I think it'll be a little bit back and forth. I think they'll need that security check down, and they won't just be able to use Olsen every time this week. So I'm good with CMC there. I don't mind his price. There's a lot of value on the slate. We'll get to that in a second. We overlap on some. GPP play that I like is Fournette at 6K straight. Usage has been there. I think people are going to overlook that, but his rush attempts and targets have been consistent, like 15 to 16 rush attempts with 6 to 8 targets all 3 weeks now. And we saw a couple weeks ago, Josh Jacobs had his big week, and it was all over Denver, just running all over them, stomping them down. So I don't mind it from a game flow perspective. If they get down, he still stays in the game script because they still have to pass it off and dump it off to him, and he's the guy that can just take off at any time. And then on top of it, if they get up, it's likely because of him just pounding a couple in. So 6,000 seems way too cheap for Fournette here. My fade is going to be a different guy. I disagree a little on Cook. I don't think he'll be popular enough to worry about. So I think, like you said, you might even get on some of them, and I agree to that because I think people are scared of the Chicago matchup. And we'll talk about dogs later on because actually the Vikings are an underdog, so people just assume that game script. But if you look last week at like Seattle, they were like 6.5 point favorites, and New Orleans still came and got it done. So that 2.5 points doesn't mean anything. My fade is going to be Eckler at 8,000, and it correlates with a value here. But Eckler's price has gone way up. The scary part is a little bit with this one is that the Melvin Gordon news came out today. He's literally going to show up to work tomorrow. Be on the field with his team this week, just hanging out, and then looks like he's going to be back to playing next week. So the worry for me when I wrote this up is that now, maybe Melvin Gordon, they know that he's there anyway, so they might just run Eckler out there and say, who cares, pound him all the way. But at the same time, that's the highest price he'll ever be at. We know now, especially with Gordon coming back. And for me, I don't think Cook's price has got there yet. I think Cook could end up being a 9K guy. You and I have talked about it with Minnesota for the season outlook and what that team is, their identity is. I think Cook just keeps going up and up and up, especially when he puts it on a good Chicago defense this week. So we'll see. But my pivot would be going to Cook there at low ownership and fading Eckler. And like I said, it correlates with one of my first values because I'll tell you the other value is Gallman, who we already talked about. We don't need to talk about it anymore. Barkley's out. It's simple as that. They don't really have anyone behind them that I'm super scared of. They haven't really brought in anyone who I'm scared of. So it's just a matter of volume, check downs, everything. But I like Justin Jackson, not just because Pollard lit up Miami last week in the, back to me being on Zeke so heavy, and Pollard ended up outscoring Zeke, which was super tilting. But Justin Jackson was getting worked in last week quite a bit already. And now you got this matchup against Miami where, like you said, I think they're just going to want to pound the ball. And they might even have spots where they're using Eckler out wide and still running it with Jackson. So I still like Jackson at 4,100. He's literally 3,900, almost half the price of Eckler in a spot that sets up well. And he can get check downs himself even. So I like Justin Jackson at 4,100 to round up my value plays, Gup.
I like all of those. I think running back, we'll get to it right now, wide receiver, but I think wide receiver is a spot to pay up this week. Do you see that, or you think it? Because last week it was really wasn't per se, but I like a lot of the higher guys in their spots, or at least mid sixes and up, where I think you can take a few chances elsewhere? Or do you think there's just a lot of value again at wide receiver like it has been week to week?
Yeah, I think it's different. Like last week had Aguilar and then pivots off of him and Devin Smith and all those different guys down at those low range prices, the James Washington narrative with Rudolph and whatnot. So this week's a little bit different. We know who one of the values is. I mean, I might as well kick off my plays with that. We know McLaurin F1 there for Washington is still priced down because he's the Monday Night Football game. The guy's been, air yards beast, catching touchdowns, making big plays, catching it with his fingertips basically in the end zone. The guy's been incredible. And just like $4,500 or whatever. So, he's obvious, but I don't see as many of that. So I think like what you said, I think it's almost like in golf where we talk about there's going to be hybrid type lineups. I think we'll see, one of the 7K and up guys. I think we'll see one of the 5K to 6K guys and McLaurin. That's going to be the common theme for lineup builds in cash or for, GPPs. It sort of correlates both ways. So for me, he's one of the values, the obvious ones. Another value is Will Fuller. I think he's a good pivot. I like him against Carolina. I like that, price point of 4,500. He's still got the targets. People liked him last week, and he just didn't have the big game. But I'll go back to the well because he's still got those targets, and he always has game-changing ability and game-changing, slate-breaking options there. So I like him with Watson. My plays are going to be, it sucks that you're not on Rivers because I'm with you. I don't really love him because there's so many other options, but I like some of his plays with, I just talked about Justin Jackson, and I think Keenan Allen is still way too cheap. Not expecting 2 touchdowns again, but still, the thing for that. And then today I see that, I knew Benjamin wasn't practicing, but today Mike Williams isn't practicing either. So it's something we'll have to monitor and why it's so important to be there for the Audible on Saturday and get some questions in for that and connect with us in the chat thereafter in Slack, because if he's out and if Travis Benjamin is out, then obviously Keenan Allen's just a lock play in cash, and what you take what you get. It's just the volume is just going to be too much. But the other play I like, who I'll go back to it, I think people might go off of him a little bit, is in that game where you talk about using Stafford. I'll go on the other side with Sammy Watkins. His price is down 6,700 right now. I'm back in on him. He's still actually had a ridiculous amount of the Mahomes targets so far this season in all 3 games. And also, if those who are following along, another injury we didn't really talk about earlier is Slay might be out. And not that he was going to target Watkins a lot, because Watkins actually goes in the slot a lot, but that's a good matchup too against Detroit. The slot matchup is really nice there. So I do like Watkins as a second play. And then my fade is going to be OBJ, which will go with my theme of the night. But I'm not going to be too high on Cleveland here just because it's the division game, right? Obviously, them in Baltimore always play pretty tough games, especially last year to this year with Baker being there. It should be a good game, but there's cheaper guys around them that I like more, some of the ones that I mentioned. So I can't get back in on OBJ off of one good game last week where there was a little bit of narrative to it where Greg Williams told him he's trash, basically, and then he dusted them. And you got to see Greg Williams all pissed off on the sidelines thinking like anybody but OBJ. But it's too bad. He's a good receiver. I just don't like him for the price and the range that he's around.
Yeah, that was my fade as well. I think that's probably going to be a pretty common one.
I think it's a good fade.
They need some, well, and his price just kind of backs it up, but they need some O-line work there for sure. And Baker's got to calm down, but part of it is he's worried about getting his block clocked off, sitting in that pocket. But, he could have won that game Sunday night. He was just so jittery that the C split open for him on that last play. He could have ran straight forward for a touchdown, and not defending him at all. He made plenty of mistakes, but that's not a situation I want to go spend $7,300 on. And that's a spot, like we're talking about earlier. Hey, could he easily have 6 for 140 and 2 touchdowns? Absolutely. But if he does, I just say good for him and move on, because I'm already on it. I'm not going to change. And it's just something I have, it's just something you have to eat if it happens. I'm going to go back to Galladay. I think last week he burned a lot of people. What looked to be a smash spot, as people call it, or all the analytics said he should just eat up that D, and he's going to get so many catches and so many yards. And I played him some, so I mean there were stats there that backed it up, but it was just the way the game script worked out. I did like Marvin Jones as well, and played him in a lineup or two, and that worked out to an extent, but it doesn't devalue him this week, right? I think he still has a great matchup. The Chiefs secondary is not the best, we know. If they can get protection, I think no matter how that game goes, whether it's a shootout or the Chiefs get up early and the Lions have to throw, his target ratio should be good in the game. And I like his matchup on what should be the guy covering him for most of the game. My other one, I have a 1A, 1B type deal. I have Hilton. If Ty is starting, I'm probably going to be on him. Just like last week in the first half, he covered. I mean, he had a good game. If that was his game stats, you would have still thought it was great. Some were disappointed because if he does near that in the second half, he has a monster day, right? But it is what it is. I'm monitoring his injury situation. I think I like the spot, especially if he suits up and plays, because most will still avoid him because they'll say, what if he gets hurt in the first quarter this time or whatever? So it's a good leverage spot if you want that. And the price, it'll scare some away to pay for a guy. But my 1B was Watkins. I agree with you there on Sammy. I like the spot. I like the price. That could be you can run it back with him if you go a Lions stack, something like that. He's in play. Value, probably going to be chalky. I think you already mentioned him, was McLaurin, Washington. I think that's going to be a high-scoring game or higher scoring game, not the best defenses as we saw. So even if they get up 28, 24, 52 type points, the dude's catching everything and playing well. And Giant secondary, has some weaknesses as we saw with Mike Evans last week. My last value is Emmanuel Sanders. I like him this week at, I think he's 4,900, just under the threshold. They're at home. I like Flacco at home as opposed to the road. They are playing Jacksonville, so I'm going to monitor the cornerback. I just lost his name situation. He flew back.
Yeah, I was just going to say his situation just got better because Jalen Ramsey is not looking like I don't think he's playing. I can't remember what the notification was. It just came by about an hour ago, but he's not looking like he's going to play. He's got a back injury or whatever. So I think he's just trying to.
I think he just flew out. His wife is due, and so he just flew back home to Nashville.
Yeah, he's got everything in the book. He was sick on Sunday. He called him sick for work on Monday in the NFL. Like, come on, never hear that. He's just trying to get out of there, right? We thought the trade was going to go down last week with him. And it didn't. So it's interesting. Yeah. But, I like that spot, and I forgot about that value play. Sanders got some real good value there, I think.
Yeah, especially if he's out. So I'll roll the tight ends first since you went back to back. My two plays, it was real close for me. I could go either way, is Olsen or Walker.
Waller?
Waller, yeah, sorry, Waller. Yeah. Waller, I think, will be much higher owned. So I liked Olsen last week. I put him in like 2 of my 5 lineups once Allen got named the starting quarterback. I talked about that. I'm still not off of it. He got targeted quite a bit. Houston has weaknesses on D, we know. I think they have a great O, so they're going to score. And Carolina's going to have to play that up-tempo game, and I think that's a game to look at as a potential stackable game with Watson, Hopkins, CMC, Olsen, even Allen. You could go Allen and run it back with Hopkins type deal. So 4,200. I like Olsen there. I think Waller's going to be fairly highly owned, but he is 5,200. So some may bounce off of him. My fade is Kelsey. It's just in a spot I want to pay 7,200 for him. They're on the road. I don't know. I just think I can build around that and not have to go to him. I expect he'll be high owned. He was last week. Just a spot for me to kind of get some value elsewhere. My value is Hawkinson, Seattle, getting more and more targets and looks, especially down in the red zone. And that's just kind of the theme of that game, that Detroit-Kansas City game. So I like him for $3,300. What about you?
Interesting. Yeah, some plays there that I like and some that I'm not so sure on. Like I like Waller for sure, and sometimes I can be chalky with that. But I kind of feel like Kelsey and Ingram, and then obviously we're going to talk about Disley here in a second. But Ingram for sure is likely to be popular with the Jones love that's out there at quarterback. The matchup sets up well, and the fact that he's been pretty much popular every week so far. So I thought he would be more popular, and Waller got priced up, right? He was down under 4K every week, and now boom, crosses right through the 4K barrier and goes up to 5,200. So I like him for the $500 savings off Ingram. I think he's got a great matchup. I think everyone's going to look at Disley. So Disley's not my fade. I just want to make a note with him for Seattle. Because they moved on Nick Vannett and traded him yesterday to the Steelers with Vance McDonald going down over there. And my thought there is that, okay, I was loving that because it's less competition. Obviously, we know that matchup against Arizona has just been rock solid so far, like literally a touchdown or more from every team. With, I think, Baltimore had 2 from 2 different tight ends and whatnot, but and Hawkinson had a good game and whatnot in the first week. But yeah, the big thing there is I saw yesterday a couple beat writers put out that they're looking to re-sign Luke Wilson by multiple beat writers that are, have been consistent in the past. And if that happens, I'm completely out, only because they've got the previous connection. They love the Wilson to Wilson connection, if you will. So I'm not big enough on that. Disley's had a good start to his season. I think Russell likes him. But if he's going to be super chalk, that's an easy one for me to fade. My other guy I like who you're fading is Kelsey. My thought process there is really based on game theory. I just don't think anyone's paying up at tight end this week in the sense of all those guys that we just mentioned between Ingram and Waller and Disley and OJ Howard. People want to go back to the well because he's still priced down at 3,900. He's a value that I kind of like here. But I think when we talked about OBJ for a second earlier, 7,300, and you talk about Allen at 7,000 or whatever it is, or 7,200, you've got now the same guy at tight end that you could sort of leverage the field a little bit that way. And I think there's got to be a big, you're like in that Detroit side of that game. I like Golladay probably the most out of everyone you mentioned. So I'm thinking you could easily run a Mahomes, Kelsey, Golladay and have a mini stack like that, obviously it costs money to run that, but that's guys that can have multiple touchdowns and tons of yards from Mahomes. So different ways to get unique with that game and get a little bit contrarian there. I still like Kelsey. Value, as I mentioned, was Howard. Didn't think his price would go up. He still had a pretty good game, like 66 yards on 3 catches is pretty huge. He definitely could have done a lot more, but not really when you've got Mike Evans getting 3 touchdowns in the first half. So just kind of unnecessary at that point. I'll still go back to him at 3,900. Think he's just fine for me this week.
Yeah, and I guess you could sway me into almost playing, Kelsey as a second wide receiver. If you wanted to play the double tight end theory this week, yeah. I could see that playing off. I don't do that often, but I could view him. I could have a Hawkinson or a Disley, like you said, in my lineup, and then play him as a flex and feel okay with that, as opposed to giving up the value at the tight end spot. Because I think if you put him at a $7,200 wide receiver, I think he's probably top 5 in my model right now type deal. So
exactly,
definitely could see that. That makes sense. Next up will be defense. I'll go quickly. My play is the Rams. That's probably going to be pretty chalky. I think we know Winston, and especially on the road, can get loose with the ball. That front is great. They can put pressure on them all day. There is a higher implied total there, but I'm more playing that for sacks, fumble turnovers type of deal. 3,500. They may be the highest on the board. It was second highest behind third highest. Chargers, Patriots, and them. Maybe people avoid that higher end. That's not real high to me. I don't mind the 3,500 mark. When you start getting into the 4s, you take a look at it. But my value is the Panthers. I do think Houston will score, but we know that line is just terrible. And so the Panthers can put some pressure on Deshaun, and maybe get for $2,300. Can get maybe 2 or 3 sacks, 1 turnover, maybe a scoop and a score type deal. I mean, this game could be 35-28 and the defense still score 10 points with turnovers, potential touchdowns, stuff like that. What about you?
I like the Rams. You took that one up there, but I had it listed like I'm with you. I think it's actually a really good leverage spot because people want to play the Chargers so bad, and they're right there for the money that people will just go to it. And we'll talk about that game. I think we've hinted at it enough times already, but I'm good with the Rams there, just because, like you said, even if it's a high-scoring game, we saw, I think it was a game last year between the Rams and the Saints, and it was like a huge scoring game, and both defenses actually eclipsed double digits because there was still enough action in that game. And remember, when there's a pick 6, the quarterback comes right back out and goes to work. So, you get the clock stopped, everything. So I do like the Rams as a leverage spot there. And my value is sort of one of those opposite D type deals with, if New England's going to be a popular defense because it's against the Bills, well, Josh Allen and the boys have been running it a lot more and not really making as many mistakes, and they have a pretty good defense that can keep them off the field. So my value is the other side of that game. I like the Bills way down at 2,600. I know it's, terrific Tom on the road and he can get it done, but it's still a division game. It's a 3-0 team. You still got to respect them. Trey White is a beast in that secondary, and that's pretty cheap. for the talent that they've got, right? 2,600. It's always a volatile position anyway, so I'm fine with going all the way down there and using them guys at home in a game that really matters and keeping it down. And if Tom, we know he throws a lot, anything can happen. James White can have a ball flick up off his fingers on a quick pass or a quick slant, and boom, the boys are taking it to the house. Your value's paid right there, and then whatever happens after that is gravy. So I like the Bills at 2,600 this week.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I definitely have no issues with it. With me with defenses, I let that, like, if I build a great lineup and I can fit a high price defense that I like, I'll play it. Like, I don't avoid it on purpose.
Right.
I don't let defense dictate my builds, good or bad. I don't go low just so I can fit someone else in. I kind of plug it in last, that and the tight end. I mean, most people probably do something similar, but I definitely don't go the rareness of what happened 2 weeks ago with the Patriots, which I happen to be on them, isn't going to happen very often when you get a 30 or even a 20 plus week. So the point difference between the third defense and the 11th defense just isn't enough to care about it. So just play where it fits the best, in my opinion. Let's roll into the stack attack. Give me your two stacks that you like right now on a Wednesday night.
Yeah, so first one correlates with the quarterback I mentioned right out of the gates was Russell Wilson. Still like him with Lockett. You can mix in Metcalf if you want, but I think that's a passing game for them. Not as high on the Carson deal like you are. Like I don't think I'm scared of them, and they definitely could go back to him. But with the way they mixed it up with Procise as well, and if Penny's back, there's more options for them to pass it down to those guys than you need to pass it down to Carson. And on top of that, you've already got guys like Lockett that we saw last week get loose. He's ready to go now. So I like him. Metcalf has been a beast so far. He's a big dude. You're not going to have a lot of coverage on him that can cover him. So I like the Russell Wilson Lockett the most, and then mix in Metcalf if you like. And, obviously Procise helps. I'm not saying you got to put it in the stack, but let's say Procise gets a check down and takes to the house. That all helps Wilson as well. So don't mind that one bit. And then the one I just mentioned, a little bit unique. I like your Galladay play, but I like running them back on the other side. I like the Mahomes-Kelsey. We've been waiting for the big week from Kelsey. Like the 2-3 touchdown opportunity type thing. And he's had a couple of close calls, but I think this could be a blow up week for him. And I like the Mahomes-Kelsey mini stack. And again, can extend it out because I like Watkins there too quite a bit. So I kind of like an expensive stack and then using the values around something like that to be different.
No, I think the last couple of weeks it was hard to go up to the expensive stack because there was so much. I think this week you can and still get some pretty good value around there. Like a Chubb's will probably go under the radar. I could come off Carson and go to Chubb. But he's 700 more. The Carson play for me was more when I look around him, like he sticks out. I definitely can see your point, and so you could talk me off of him by Saturday, but there's like you either go way down or you're up in the high end. That mid range right there is the running backs that are priced there just don't have really good matchups, and so it kind of worries me. Fournette's one that's kind of on the radar, but they're on the road. I don't know how that'll play out. He is getting more targets out of the backfield though.
Yeah, I like
my stacks. Colts. I like the Colts. Brissett, Mack, Hilton, Doyle, Ebron, even if you want. Kane saw the most snap increase second half with Hilton out. So I do, you could have a real value there if Ty is out. I'm sure Kane will be chalky, but I'll watch some of that back. And, he ran some good routes. I think he's in play for 3,200 for sure. And then kind of a unique stack. I mean, I could go to some of the chalky ones, but we know what those are. I don't mind running it back with Kyle Allen, DJ Moore, Olsen, even Samuel's in there. That game's fringe on the higher end of scoring. Houston, Carolina. I think it's at Houston, so I think you could see. I don't want to say shootout, but I think Watson and Allen, you could see some electric. They both like to run the ball as quarterbacks. We'll see if Allen can play good back to back. He looked very sharp last week. I think there was an energy to the offense that was missing. And so I kind of like that as a sleeper stack type deal. And you can get it real cheap and then pay up at some of the higher spots if you want. Obviously, you can throw CMC in there any day you want. That right. Probably goes without saying. That kind of wraps up DFS. I had someone ask, why do you guys do it on Wednesday night? And it's really, I don't want to say it's industry driven, but I don't think you gain enough Wednesday night to Thursday night for us to wait. And then we can't talk about Thursday night football if there happens to be some good matchups. And then when they start flexing and stuff, you can have better ones. And then we go to Friday. I mean, we kind of made the decision. Originally, we're going to do Thursday night, but we felt more people wanted to have at least 2 mornings to listen to it Thursday, Friday. And since we have so much content that comes out and then the live stuff Saturday night, it was enough. That's why we're keeping it action packed, less than an hour type deal. There was enough volume and interest that doing it tonight would at least get people out on the right foot and get our initial thoughts out there. Yes, we still have 72 hours before the main stuff comes along, but I think it's better if you guys have enough feedback and you think something else is better. Like Friday night's out. That's kind of like I'm trying to have a night with my family,
Right.
and I have a 1 hour call with OG. We go through super contest picks. We get those in. I get my college football stuff built and locked in, and so I kind of have the routine. And I'm not going to do it Saturday. That's too late. So it was kind of tonight or tomorrow night, and it just felt that getting out tonight would let us kind of get this over with. Get enough out there, then we get our golf locked in and we kind of get to breathe for like 36 hours. Thursday evenings, light. Friday's pretty light, other than content getting posted. And then we hammer it for Saturday and Sunday again. So that's kind of the theory behind it. I think it's gone well. We've had great feedback on the pod so far. Keep that coming. Let's roll into betting real quick and wrap this up. What are your 2 favorite plays against the Super7 spreads, Tambo?
I joked on the pre-show with you, a little break in between the E9. I said, you're going to crush me for this play, but I like the Ravens -6.5, just needing a touchdown. I know it sounds like a homer play, but hear me out. The theory here, I know you said the number even came down, so I guess they're assuming that it's going to come down. And I think the public automatically thinks that it's a trap and that, you got to bet Cleveland because they're being overlooked and that's such a bad number on them just because they had a bad start or whatever. But honestly, the Ravens had one loss there against the best team in football, maybe in Kansas City. So, or if not the best, one of the best, they're going to be there near the end. So I think the Ravens, people forget, are a much better team at home. They look awesome. The defense has been great. They didn't just get handed to them by the Chiefs. They just had a bad game. Lamar had a bad game against a great team. And you got to learn, you got to adapt when you're playing a guy like Mahomes. So they'll certainly be able to adapt. Like you said, Baker looked a little bit jittery there last week. I know he can adapt too. He's a great quarterback. But I like my Ravens at home. I think people are underestimating that home point advantage for them. And then home field advantage, I should say. And then Miami, we've hinted at it all night. The Super7 line's already down. I know you got an even better number legitimately, but in Super7 it's plus 15.5. That might get even lower. It might go to 14.5 or something. But the Chargers are good. They're not great, right? Hence why there's no 20-point or 21, 23-point spread like some of these other guys got. Rivers on the road, traveling west to east, early game. Maybe some of them are into that Miami nightlife, for all we know, the night before. But, it's just not for me. I definitely think the Dolphins lose, but I definitely think they cover. So you can reiterate that one. I know you're on the same, but what's your thoughts beyond that?
Yeah, I'm on the Dolphins. I don't like the 15.5 as much as like 17 what I bet it at, but I definitely would have thought it was a smash spot if the Chargers had won, because if they got that win and then early morning Sunday, fly, get here East Coast time, early kickoff for them, a team that's a letdown spot, they look like garbage, blah, blah, blah. I do think the Chargers come in a little bit more focused because of the loss at home. So that worries me a hair, but I mean, very rarely historically you look at there's just not, on average, most NFL teams are not 16, 17, 18 points different week in and week out, top to bottom. That's why my power rankings, I have a 12-point spread from top to bottom on a neutral site. So a home team may get up to 18, but and yeah, you're going to have teams blow out teams. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, 16 games a week over 17 weeks. You're just, the average point spread differential is not going to be much more than that. So definitely like the spot for Miami. They showed a little bit of life against Dallas. I like it more if Rosen winds up playing. It sounds like he will. I think he had to give a little bit of, spunk to the offense, at least hope. So they could have the lead going into halftime against Dallas at Dallas. So they're not dead, right? They're not just going to roll over. I mean, some of those guys are playing for the next contract. So these guys care, right? They're not just, it's not like they're guaranteed anything. So don't forget that. So I love that. And then my next one's the Bills. I like the Bills at home +7. I think it's a tough spot for Vegas because they don't like getting killed by New England, and New England could certainly win this game by 10-13. I think I'm not on the side I would like to normally be on because, normally I'd be like, oh, the Bills aren't really 3-0. they are, but are they really that good? Is it, hyped up, blah, blah, blah. But I think the line that came out allowed me to get back on it because I would have been more afraid if it had been even higher. There's just a differential there that I'm like, the right line could have got me out this game, but I think Buffalo's going to keep it tight. I think they're going to run the ball, have a good game plan. They played them close on the road at the end of the year last year. I think it was week 15. I think it was 24-12. So a low scoring game on the road with Allen was back. So I don't know. I think they have a good chance. I'm gonna be on that +7. My dog of the week is, I think you may go the Vikings, so I'm gonna go the Panthers. I think the Panthers could outright win at Houston. They're getting 4.5. So that's gonna be it. My 1B was Minnesota, but that could be a pick 'em by kickoff. So I'll go with the Panthers.
You know me too well. Got perfect chemistry there, brother. That's my notes were Vikings. That's easy. Don't care that it's in Chicago. Better team, in my opinion, period. And that's really what it comes down to. I talked about with Cook earlier. I think he's a great contrarian play for DFS. I think even if they got a pass, I think we'll see Diggs light it up this week because we haven't seen him yet. He's been running great routes, which is not getting it done. He's pretty cheap, so I kind of like him as another flyer. I know we're under the betting here, but just straight up as a 2.5-point dog, a couple bets that we mentioned there because I don't bet a ton, but money line Vikings, bang, hitting it, and first half spread Miami. I know in Super7 we got to pick the full line, but I think for sure Miami comes out piss and vinegar, ready to rock and roll, shocks them a little bit, and then yes, maybe the Chargers, like I said, they're good, not great. Maybe they come back and get the job done, but I like Miami first half spread, and I like Vikings money line as my dog and as a bet of the week for me.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. And I could see my Carolina stack that's fairly cheap, especially if I leave out CMC. But even if I don't, you can get cheap there, and you could run a Cook at 8,300. My point on Cook was the price, but if he comes in, is going to be like just ignored at 8,300 versus the Bears. His talent's there. I'll certainly play him, but I just didn't like the price in the situation. And I'll be interested to see where the ownership's looking Saturday when we get on here live. Any final thoughts for you, Tambo?
No, Survivor picks we doing?
Oh shoot, yeah, I did skip right over that. Yeah, what is your Survivor pick this week? Obviously,
yeah.
I think we both have used Patriots, Cowboys.
The same one everybody else in the world used. Yeah, we use those. But I mean, this week it's the obvious. It's going to be the Chargers that are that team. And like I said, I'm still a little scared. I know it might be a bit of a whatever you want to call it move, but for me, Miami. I said they'll cover. Imagine if they win. Imagine we got another miracle down there, and like you said, Rosen comes out hot, or we see a Kenyon Drake game or something where these guys just get lucky and take off with it. So you might laugh at me, but I'm going to skip down one and go to the Rams. You talked about them earlier. I like the Rams. You talked about their defense. Jameis, had his big game. I think the Rams get the job done here. Not sure, you never know who you're picking there between Gurley, Cook, Kupp, and Woods. But for me, I'm going to go with the Rams as my survivor. Who do you got?
So kind of on sync tonight. Rams were my survivor as well.
Nice.
Yep, that's the one I wrote down. I will be rooting hard for the Dolphins because I think they'll be highly picked. I mean, the Chargers will be highly picked.
Yeah.
I do like the Rams. I mentioned them. D's what I like. I don't see a situation where they lose that at home. I'm not as high on them as some of the industry, but I definitely against them. I definitely like them at home to get the W at least. What's your final thoughts on tonight?
No, all good, man. I think it was a good run. We went through quite a bit. I think the one thing that you hit on, just to elaborate a little bit before you close us out, is just the Wednesday night thing. It's for everybody, right? I know there's like 3 or 4 pods that are out already before we even get down to business tonight. So people are putting them out early. The key is there's showdown tomorrow. People do play Thursday through Monday DFS, so we want to have it for that perspective. The bets, the lines move, right? We want to have that covered for you. So everything we do is to try and keep it succinct and keep it together so that it's going to be good the whole way for you. Help everybody in the most amount, and then that's the whole reason for Saturday night. So if you're not a Gups Corner member yet, that's a great segue, Gup, to kick it off. Let them know how they can find us, how they can get subscribed, because the Audible is important. We've opened up a live chat questions room in the Slack where people can put in questions, and we got a lot more to talk about on Saturday nights. Plus, we have a lot more information, so you definitely want to be there to be dialed in with us.
Yeah, I think it's been huge. I had a little mini, not rant, but I asked people to get involved because the Saturday night deal is for the community. Like, it's not like I don't need to get on there and talk about, like, it's a suggestion, say, why don't you open up a Slack channel and we could throw questions in there throughout the day. And I, ran it by JB, thought it was great. So yeah, as always, Saturday night, 7:00 Eastern time, we will go live with the Audible. We know that's not the perfect time for everybody. So we've opened that Slack channel up. You can start firing questions in there. I mean, frankly, whenever, but sometimes they get deleted because after we've run through 10,000 or whatever the number is, like almost every other day, it seems like. So Saturdays for sure, get in there and throw them in there a few hours before we go live. We'll use that to get started like we did tonight. It's a member-only chat. It's held behind the paywall. So now, it's another reason to be a member there, and you get the last up-to-date information for us. As I said earlier, you join now. Use GCFFG for 15% off. If you would like a little bit better offer, there is a pod-only offer I gave out Sunday night. It will not be published anywhere or said anywhere. It is only if you want to spend 20 minutes listening, or at least download it and try to find it by fast forwarding. But download it, give us a rate and review. I've always mentioned giving us a review on iTunes is the best way to win one of our contests. We give away a ton of contests and prizes and giveaways all year long. We will have one fired up here for October, working on the details now. Have a good, fun little October push for Halloween with the big prize pack type deal going out late in October. More details on that starting with the Smash Factor next Monday. My final thoughts, now that I've simmered down some, I don't want anybody to go out there and start tweeting saying I'm talking shit about everybody else. That's not what I'm doing. I respect a lot of the industry. ADHD is a good friend of mine. He's helping me with the golf stuff. Very analytical, almost way above my level of the way he looks at stuff. I love him. I have no issues with him. My issue is with what some of these guys come back with when they don't win or they fail or they blame the teams or the offense or the scheming or they didn't do this right. They should. I mean, that's what gets all over me because you don't know what that team was doing. You don't have to have played football. That's not my point. There's some very, very, very sharp guys in the industry that never touched a football in their life, which is perfectly fine. There's an advantage to have been playing football. I believe that, a lot of the big analysts in the big channels, former football players, there's a reason for that. You see the game differently. You understand it differently. The ins and outs, being in that locker room, being in film study, reading playbooks that look like a Bible times 10 week in and week out. And it changes with each schematic setup for that week. I couldn't imagine Bill Belichick's situation. Like they basically seems like they regen up every Monday. It's a brand new season. So there's a lot that goes on. My point was, don't get so caught up in the deep analysis and numbers and all that that's all you pay attention to, because there is some of gut feel, what you saw with your own eyes watching the game. And there's vice versa. Don't use all the anecdotal part to say, oh, I think he was wide open all the time. Well, there is a point to go look at the research and go, yeah, he's not getting any catches or anything. Perfect example you mentioned earlier, Diggs, right? Running great routes, looking great, just not been the right situation for him to get a ball. He's going to get his and go off, sooner than later. So it's a spot to take advantage if no one's going to be on him. But there's no necessarily, that's kind of a combo of the stats will show you run route and what he's doing and all that. The film will show you he's been open some, just not gone his way. Last week was a big Thielen week. No difference in Godwin and Evans. There was no stat in the world that was going to tell you who was going to go off last week. You had to know which way Jenkins was going to play. He's obviously a weaker cornerback, but there wasn't a guarantee he was going to be on Evans all the time. He could have been on Godwin, and Godwin went off. So there's tons of situations there that I just remind people that it's a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am sport as far as DFS. You start at noon, and sometimes by 1, you could be dead. If you're on the wrong game and the other game's 28 and a half or something crazy, it's not like golf where it's spread out and you get the same at bats, quote unquote, assuming the cut, forget the cut part. Everybody plays a hole. Everybody has a chance to birdie. NFL's not. You could have last week, Carson, we saw that. There's all kinds of situations where just the game script and flow doesn't work out. That's why we preach going through what you think the game will work out as and taking all of our advice and looking at all the stuff and kind of script out your best scenario and be okay with it. But don't blame the team or the scheme or the coordinators and all that. That stuff just, it wears me out because these guys you forget it's a game to us, but it's their career. It's their livelihood. I know they're making a lot of money. Some of them don't make as much as you think. I think everybody thinks they're just a bunch of billionaires, millionaires. There's a lot that make a ton of money. I get it. But a lot of them, they're not making just a whole ton of, they're making $400,000 or $500,000, which I know is stupid money. I get it. But it's still their livelihood and career. It could end tomorrow, right? They could, tear their knee and look at the cornerback, for Atlanta. Torn ACL last year, torn Achilles this year. His value is not worth much. Now he's got his contract, still not guaranteed. I mean, he'll probably get his and get paid, but they're playing for it. I mean, this is their career. You wouldn't like someone coming into your job and your career telling you how to run it, and they don't have any clue. They've never been in it in their life, or they don't understand it. So just respect the game. It's kind of my point. That's why I got fired up. I'm not calling anybody out. I don't have a specific person in the industry. It was a common theme Sunday night because the games didn't go the way people thought. They were blowing up. And, of course, I didn't say one thing. You can go look at my stuff. It bugged me, and I wanted to mention it tonight because I also want people – I saw more people than not regret the decision they originally had because they moved off and they threw some Darwin Thompson in late, or James Washington, or whoever late Sunday morning, and the original plan they had would have been the Stones. I think you admitted you went a 2v2 that costs money, and you're fine with it, right? It's a decision you make and stand by it.
And just real quick to your point, though, so you said, what did I said, you know what? The bottom line was, I wish the penny news didn't come out because that changed my mind. I still own it. And like you said, we own our stuff, and just say, hey, I made the move because I thought that 2v2 was better. It ended up costing me some, but it wasn't Carson's fault or anybody. It just happened. That's just how the game flow went. It happens. It's football.
Yeah, and that was my point. So I don't want people bashing. Well, you can if you want. It doesn't bother me more. I just hit mute and move on. But I'm not calling anybody out in the industry. I would, if I have someone I'm going to call out, I'll say it to their face. I'm certainly not going to hide behind some keyboard. My point was the whole industry in a whole, and trying to teach us, the community, that football is a different sport, and you have to approach it a little different and understand and take your chances, just like Bob did. I mean, he kind of saw some numbers with Gabriel. He was throwing a bullet in a little bit bigger showdown contest. He's like, man, if this guy goes off and gets his, it's a great leverage spot. He put a bullet in there and he wins 50,000. I'm not saying it's going to happen all the time, but he used a little bit of numbers and a little bit of gut. He even kind of said that in Slack and made the decision, then kind of went chalky. He had the Trubisky, Bears, and down the road, and he wins it. So, don't be afraid of your plays. Stick by them. We're going to have a great week. I feel it, golf-wise, football-wise, betting-wise. Hop on now if you're not on. It's a great time to get in. You get the free preview of golf all the way through the fall swing. We will see you Saturday night, 7 o'clock Eastern in the Audible. Content will be rolling the next 48 hours. Looking forward to it. We'll see you then.